we're going to talk about the JET program. So what does the JET program stand for? What is JET? Do you know?
Japanese education.
Boo! No.
Experience.
Huh?
Exchange.
Teaching.
Exchange.
Yeah, teaching. Okay. So, yes, that's right. So, it stands for Japan Exchange and Teaching. Okay? When I started the JET program, I thought it was the Japan English Teaching Program, right? That's exchange. Okay, when was the JET program started? Who knows?
20 years ago.
What year? Give me a year.
1987. 89.
No, you're right. 87. 1987. So about, I don't know, 23 years ago. I can't do that. Okay, currently, how many countries participate in the JET program? How many? 14? No.
20?
No.
50.
No.
9.
85. 40.
40! 40! Give it to somebody else. Thank you. Pass it around. Okay. 40, yeah. There are 40. So they're not. So here's the thing. They're not all English-speaking countries anymore. They also have people from like Vietnam. There's one, not ALT, but they are a CIR, Coordinator of International Relations. Okay. So the JET program, they speak Japanese, but they don't speak English. They're speaking Japanese, but they're also speaking with people from their country.
What do they do?
Maybe like tourism between different countries, or like spreading ideas about Japan to Vietnam. Run. Okay, more facts. Okay, so it started in 1987 with 848 participants from only 4 countries: the United States, New Zealand, UK, and Australia. I don't know. Canada's always there. Okay, and then in 2002, they had 6,273 participants from 40 countries, and currently it has 4,360. I'm going to show you a chart. Okay. So you can see that the JET program, it got bigger, and now it's kind of on the decline. It looks like it's stable. But why? So let's find out the implications. I'm gonna give this to you after, because I don't want to give away my secrets. You don't have to. Just listen. So what does this all mean? Okay, so what I've come to believe is the JET program was created to be a cultural exchange program. Okay, and it wasn't about teaching. They wanted people from other countries to come to Japan to become goodwill ambassadors. They wanted people to, because Japan was just opening up from isolation, they wanted people to come to Japan, and then when they go home, they say, oh man, Japan was such a great place, and the sushi was really nice, and the onsen was beautiful, because they wanted to spread the information about Japan. So they use teaching, as to give somebody a job. So that's why, they wanted people that were young. Originally, it was 35 years old. That was the limit. Now it's 40. But, they wanted people right out of college. They wanted people with a lot of energy. They wanted people that, were outgoing. That was the main thing. They wanted people to be like, get out there, talk to people. So it was 2 ways. It was for when they go back home, people from their country know about Japan, but also so that Japanese people could also experience a foreigner in their town. I think it's a great program because every school in Japan has one as an ALT. Why the decline in numbers? I don't know, budget, loss of interest, budget. I want to say maybe restructuring of the English programs. You guys have Interact and different programs, budgetary, but there are other companies now that are providing English teaching. Cheaper ones, but you can also change your contract. That's another thing that's hard about it. So what about the future of the JET program? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I taught at 2 schools And this is Wakuya Junior High School. It was my biggest school, my bigger school. It had 350 plus students. I had 30 staff members here, 5 English teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 5. The school, yeah, it's kind of small, but we had 5. It was too many. It was
Too many.
too many.
Including you.
No, not including me. Sorry. So this is 5 JTs. Then I had another school. I had another school, and that school I call Nonodake. Nonochu. And this was, I call it the mountain school. Because it was like, it's the same town, but it was like stuck in the mountains. It's a smaller school. We only had about 70 students. They had 17 staff. They always wanted to close the school. So I had 1 full-time English teacher and then 1 part-time teacher. There was 2 teachers for 70 students. And just like you, she had to teach every single grade. And the school was very relaxed. People like to see me. Okay, so this is how I felt like in Japan. So feeling around. So my life in Japan, it starts with me just putting my hand in the box and trying to figure out where I'm going. Okay. School culture. Now, these are all my pictures. Okay, so school life is very different from school life in America, but I think that was easy for me to understand because it's still children. I can understand children, and children are very nice, and children always make me smile. But one of the things that ALTs have a hard time with is. So the teachers and the students, because they've been in school for so long, they always know exactly what's going to happen. On a certain day, when you get to school that there's going to be like a meeting. But ALTs, we have to go to different schools, and a lot of times we don't know. And so that's one of the confusing parts for us, is these like activities. We don't know our roles. So like for Bunkasai and for the sports festival, I was like, what do I do? I don't know. What am I supposed to do? So yeah, students and teachers know what's going on, but it's always for us, it's not so much common sense. But school culture, I really enjoyed it. This is me in the office. And you notice there's nobody there, right? Okay. So this is we talk about work culture, and I think for me, what was more difficult for me was work culture, because the school culture, you're teaching, that's something normal. But for me, working was very difficult because there's a few things, and one of them was dress code. I was very lucky because my senpai, he told me, Bob, dress better than the worst dressed guy. But don't dress better than the best dressed guy. And so I was like, okay. So every Monday I wore a suit to school because I wanted to. Because in Japan, details are more important sometimes. Level of politeness, which I think I had a really hard time with. I have a story where one of my friends, he, in the morning he said, Ohio, to one of his English teachers, and then, for like 3 months she didn't talk to him. He didn't know why, and then she was like, never say Ohio to me. And he was very shocked. But I think in America we like to be a little more casual with our coworkers. But in Japan, you have to be very polite. My comment everybody said about me, my friend came to visit me at my school, and then he would say, hey, how's Bob? How's Bob? And they're like, it's very polite. It's very polite. So I learned from the beginning to just which is very difficult for most of us. And then there's the differences of roles and relationships between coworkers. So what I'm talking about is So a new worker in America comes to the workplace, and then usually, your boss or your superiors come and they talk to you and say, hey, where are you from? What do you like to do? Do you like to drink beer? But in Japan, it's very opposite, The new person comes and they work really hard and they're supposed to be very quiet. So I never understood it when I first came to Japan, like, how am I supposed to act towards my new coworkers? Because I wanted to talk to people, and I wanted to, practice the Japanese that I was trying to learn. But, in the class, in the staff room, nobody talked to each other, so I was always, I wanted to talk to somebody. So what I ended up having was isolation. So, and this is the image. Because there were many times where I was working on my, making these stories, right? And I would look up, and I'd look around, and I was like, wow, nobody's here. What happened? And so, there would be an assembly or something, but nobody, there's no bell that says, there's a meeting, Bob, please come to, the gym. So sometimes they would forget about me. Sometimes I had to be in my own world. So then, after a while you lose your lack of, you have lack of purpose. You're in the staff where, you make things for your English class, but you never feel like you're part of the team. And I always wanted to be part of the team. I tried my hardest, and there were a lot of, there was usually in the winter time where I just was like, I want to go home. And a lot of ALTs, I think, they have to take vacation in the winter time because it's a difficult time for us. I always felt disconnected from school and school life, and usually from what people were doing, because even during Bunkasai, I never did anything until the last year I was there. So there would be people doing things for a whole week. I didn't teach classes because they were doing special activities. And nobody said, Bob, can you help me with this? And I would just sit and, or I would walk around and talk to the students. And I like talking to the students, but I always wanted a job,
How was you doing the last year?
So I'll get to that later. Okay, sorry. I felt I was wasting my time. I felt like I had come to Japan, and here I was sitting at my desk, and I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do or make connections with people. Okay, so this is my desk, and I like to draw. So before I use PowerPoint, I would do storytelling using the chalk. So I would tell a story with pictures. Okay, so I want you guys in your same groups. Okay, we're going to talk about define a good ALT, okay, and then define a bad ALT, and then I want you to think of what do you think the role of an ALT should be. And this can, this is very broad, so please get back into your groups. And if you guys can make you can move your desk. You guys want some paper to write things down? Make a little group.
So we find a good LT, but
You can write things down if you want.
So many group.
The same group from Jeopardy. Jeopardy group. So you can do that. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes.
Good LT. I thought good LT. Ask. It's really hard to ask more.
make the other teachers,
Just like Japanese teacher, like
so, yeah, I think only English teachers, Japanese even help.
Japanese
I think it's part of they're trying to understand their another word. He doesn't get it.
I didn't ask.
Might not be able to get all the other I think it's depends on personal. But sometimes I have remember his name.
What are they trained?
They don't talk to us.
Play the game, same game,
Remember that.
couple
Like
months
They
later,
don't want you
Do you
improve the
know how long?
game.
sit there.
3 days.
Even if I don't tell them.
So do they have an issue? Yeah.
They're more like, our LT is like, they're get paid less. And if they can find a better job, then they quit.
So your job is how many, if there's how many background, what help you
Be there and
being
speak, that's all.
That's all.
If they don't know.
School festival or
Some LT, yeah, it depends. Some LTs are like up to you. LTs are very culture. Most of them are not.
That's very hard. Also like schedule.
Yeah, how
Different Two junior high and one senior high have 3 elementary school. The other one
Culture
has 3.
itself.
So 8 is
most of the time, you
but we don't have much class.
Language. So here,
Three
sound is bring some atmosphere, different not we want them to understand our
guest.
Japanese specific school at UC, right?
Eight schools.
In my opinion, I understand Japanese. Yeah, just speak Japanese. We don't know how to teach. If there's Japanese, who speaks what they
Start wrapping it
no
up.
meaning of
guys.
your countries. For me, like for example,
You need more time?
Yes.
What
But
I'll give you
is with a
2
time like
minutes.
that.
2 more minutes.
Don't know the objective of the program. Tell the students the culture instead of having him stop like that. About Ken's, I should tell. For example, if he is doing this one teaching, I don't tell him to stop right. I tell my students it is a different culture. In my opinion, but I don't know. I understand teachers don't like about it, but in my opinion, that's the best, and that's why we hire them to be engineers. if we want to teach only English, then we can have someone who is like Japanese, like Japanese. For example,
English speaking countries. So that's the entrance.
but that's my opinion, so I understand this one is the most, I guess this is, I understand. But I think it's not really our culture. This is very, do that Japanese booze off the wall.
No.
He shows the, it's like saying, if you are in the United States, don't make any sound. Typical, for example, it's something like saying, don't make any sound. Wait, it's little. What's the lie?
Say something about that.
You still have more.
Or
But whether he should stop or not, I think it's control him. That's his
Give
choice.
it more time.
we can find out
Yes.
about between teacher and between entities and
That's our job to do that. That's our job. English teacher's job to tell.
Yeah, she had to
That's my opinion.
understand and accept some good aspects of different culture. I think not only just respect the other culture. Rest of the day, she should
Okay, start to wrap it up and then start to give somebody to present.
interested in
It's not necessary to be a good teacher. That's the role.
It's okay, I understand. Thank you, because I like Japanese and I think Japan is number one.
Yeah, all teachers in graduate school, they in university.
All around, yeah,
Not
yeah.
very, very good teacher.
She should behave. Yes.
Okay, close up discussion, please. Good, okay, great. I am really like this. Look at me in your pencil class. Okay, let's wrap it up. And we're gonna do, if you choose somebody from your group, or you can do, everybody can present, but I'm just gonna write down some good things, some bad things, and the role of the ALT. And by the role, I mean, sorry, I didn't clarify, but inside the classroom, as well as outside the classroom, okay? So, who was Team 3? You guys are who's Team 3? Huh? Okay.
Trying to be a part of
Part of school. Be a part of school. Okay. What else do you have?
join school events, winning, ask questions.
Okay, let's move it around. Anything good?
Many ideas.
Any ideas? Any ideas about teaching? Anything else?
Understand the object of jet program.
Understand
Program.
the objective.
Right.
Do you understand the objective? You do?
Because you explained.
Okay. Because we have this thing in the JET program, we call it internationalization. Okay? And that was our #1 job. They always told us that at orientation was, you are there to internationalize.
motivated to teach.
Motivated to teach. Good.
Don't have to be
No. But maybe this is about the idea. They don't have to be jets. But who has a jet ALT? Who has like a private company? Who has no ALT? You?
No LT?
Used to be, master. Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I know that's
No, LT. Yeah.
What's the LT?
For
How old?
4 years. All 4 years.
Yeah.
Holy
no,
yeah.
There was another MEXT
Got
teacher
it.
who didn't have.
なるほど。
長いのそれ。
そんなの他には。
What else? Or good ALT?
あ、
Anything else? Good.
Do as Japanese teacher do.
Who has Japanese? You would do.
Okay.
Wow.
Which Japanese teacher? Which one?
A Japanese like old way.
Yeah.
For example, don't sit on the table.
Okay, how about you guys? You guys have a question?
Yeah.
Try to talk with students or teachers,
Try to talk.
even outside of the classroom,
Okay.
In English.
in English.
How about in Japanese, okay?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, speaking in English is better than speaking
English is better.
Okay, one more, do you have anything else?
One more.
Foreign language.
Usually ask the LT not to switch.
Really? Positive attitude.
Yeah, I think
Positive attitude.
students don't
It's true, but I don't think the ALT learners how to speak Japanese too, so they can't connect to the rest. Okay, let's talk about bad. We'll go reverse order, so you guys first. And then,
So one of my teacher wore tears on the tongue. I mean, talking about appearance.
Pierce.
Pierce.
Wearing piercing.
Wearing the pierce on the tongue.
Tongue piercing.
Tongue pierce. So he didn't change it.
Okay, let's talk about, we'll call that dress code. Okay?
Dress code.
My sister.
Her sister.
My sister, oh yeah.
Wow.
I didn't hear a detail saying that. I think in Japan it's too much.
Okay. That's difficult.
Dress code violation.
Dress code violation. That's it. Anything else?
Violation.
I don't know. Anything else? Good.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Opposite of good.
Yeah.
Anything else that's like a bad? Opposite of good. Okay.
Using cell phone during classes.
Wow.
Yeah, so when the iPhone came out, I wanted to use it during class because it had my dictionary in there. And I liked having a timer, but then I knew if I took out the iPhone, then my students would be like, hey, you're using your phone. That's against the rule. But it's so useful. I think that's why iPads are cool, because it's not a phone, you can't get a phone. Okay. Anything else? Stubborn? Stubborn. Let's call it inflexible too. Stubborn.
Yeah.
Inflexible. Okay, how about from you guys?
Stubborn.
Works for only money.
Works only for money. Or greedy. Let's say greedy.
Quit the job quickly for stupid reason.
Okay. Greedy. Self-interested. Anything else that I missed? Really good?
Not punctual.
Not punctual. Oh, man. Okay. I'll have to talk about that one.
One more.
Yeah.
Take paid leave on an important day.
Okay. What kind of important day?
Like we are planning to have the interview test with LT. So we take paid leave to go traveling.
How about if, how about during, like, let's say, undokai, if they said thank you? Is that inappropriate enough?
If he has a job to do.
Okay, so you're talking about more like English stuff, right? Like classroom. I broke some rules. Okay, so good. Okay, so let's talk about what you think the role of an ALT should be. This is inside and outside the classroom. Actually, we get mine. Okay, actually, let me just comment on some things. This is what, this is, I think, the most important part about being an ALT. And, a lot of us, we have a difficult time figuring out our role in the classroom. And this is how we can make our own roles. So I would always tell people, get involved, talk to people, join events. I think a lot of you guys like to call me a super ALT, and for me, I found it was nicer for me to meet Japanese people because I knew that was more of a personal connection. The friends that I made on the JET program were great, and I still talk to some of them, but for me to really have an experience in Japan, I had to spend time with people. So I went to every sports tournament, and I cheered on the basketball team, and I would travel to the MEXT prefecture if they made it to the prefecture level, then we're like, yeah, let's go. Any teaching ideas? And this is hard. I want to say that when you're first time teaching, you're not going to have many ideas. And when it's your first year, you have to give them, the seeds in order for them to make these ideas. You have to give them the opportunity to fail, because I failed a lot of times. I made bad lessons, and I thought that they would be good because, I think that this would work in America, so the students should use it. Not always the case. Understand the objective of the JET program? I think that connects all the way back to these things. Motivated to teach. We're in Japan to teach. A lot of us, our job, we don't want to become teachers. So this is hard. I'll come back to that. Do what Japanese teachers do. I tried to do this. This is really hard. Because then I have to spend, then I would start staying after school until 7 o'clock and drinking tea. I went to every single Enkai with the little school, the one the relaxed ones. Yeah, I like them because it was fun to drink with them. But a lot of ALTs, it's hard for them with their time to do as the teachers do. And I found that if I tried to be like the Japanese teachers, they would just say, "Well, relax." And I was like, "Hey, why can't I clean?" They're like, "No." And one of my teachers told me because because the teachers thought that I was too good to do something like clean or help after. And I was like, no, I want to be a part of this team. But I think this is very hard because this isn't up to us. This is you have to let me be a teacher at the school. You have to accept me as a staff member.
That's impossible.
That is impossible, yeah.
Possible?
It's possible. I've seen, I've heard of ALTs that...
I cannot be like American. It's important to respect the culture, but
Right.
I don't want them to be like Japanese teachers do, because we are different.
Yeah.
So,
But, if you're working together, if you're working 4 years with somebody who didn't follow the work culture, it's a little harder, right? If a person that works with you didn't follow the same rules as all the teachers, it becomes a little difficult for you to tell them, hey, you can't do that at work, right? So, there is a level, there's something in the middle, and I think that's the part of the internationalization and getting used to a culture that you have to deal with. If I wanted to work for a Japanese business, I can't act like an American.
no.
Right. And so I'm working at a Japanese school. There's a part of me that should be myself, that should be American. But there's a part of me that has to understand how I can swim through that river, Okay, this is very important. This goes back to all of this part. And this is where my job was fun, because I could talk to the teachers and I could talk to the students. It was harder for me to talk to any Japanese teachers in English, because there's this anxiety level. I think, yeah.
What we're supposed to do to AOTs like who don't want to talk to students or teachers?
Well, you can make the students talk to the AOT. So, I always wanted my teacher to do like a scavenger hunt. You make this project where the student has to find out something about the ALT. And you use the grammar points, and you say, hey, what country are you from? So now the students, this game that they have to collect information about the ALT, they talk to them. That's one way, and your ALT should be talking to the students, and if not, then, I've had really bad JTs, and I've had really good ones, and they leave, and time passes, and things change. And if someone that doesn't want to talk to students, then show it. You'll get a better one day. Positive attitude, yes. If it's a JET program ALT, then they usually choose somebody in the interview process that is like happy and dainty. Dress code violation. I knew an ALT that had a piercing who was a great ALT that ended up working for the Board of Education. I don't think, in Southern America, that's a hard thing because we don't discriminate with people with how they look or how they dress. And I know, especially with the tattoos, one of the guy after me had like a tattoo that if he wore a short sleeve shirt, you could see it. And I was like, don't go to the outside. But in America and other countries, we believe that no matter what you look like, you can still do a great job. And I'm sure there are bad people that look, terrible. Also, in Japan, the first time I saw, the salary men with the fancy hair and comb and all that. In America, if you have hair like that, you can't work at a company like that. You have to be, short. You have to have like a short cut. And so when I saw the salary men, I was like, wow, who are these guys? Are they like the nightclub guys? Like, no, they're just going to, Panasonic to work for the day. So that was an idea that, wow, finally, in Japan, I could grow my hair long. Because I could go to work and nobody would look at me and be like, you should cut your hair, Bob. So those are two different cultural things, I think, that, we have a different image of how people. A lot of companies here in America, if you have a tattoo, you have to cover it. And I think usually you can't have anything here. I don't know, that's true. Opposite of good, yes. That's good. Opposite of good. Okay, using cell phones, that is terrible. That students can't use it. Who had that?
My LT uses for timing and playing music, and nobody complains. I don't know why, but she does it naturally.
Okay, well, see, that's the thing that's difficult about something like an iPhone or a smartphone, is because it's so useful if we could just turn off the phone, right? And that's what they should be doing, but I don't like pulling out my phone in class because the students look at me, and now you're giving them the idea they're thinking. I would say no cell phones in the classroom, and I had a teacher that used an iPod. It's like an old, an iPod. That's okay, right? Like a music player. And the iPod video, it could still show pictures. So she used that to show pictures on the TV. That's terrible. Stubborn and flexible. Ooh. I mean, if you are stubborn and inflexible, I think it's really hard to live in a foreign country. So this person must have a lot of other. Yeah, sure not punctual. Okay, so Japan is very punctual. On the level of punctuality. Japan's like, and I thought I was pretty punctual before I went to Japan, but if I just went 2 minutes late, I was like, oh no. And the meeting would start at 8 o'clock. And I would come in and I would have to go to the locker room. I had to go to the locker room because they started the meeting. Okay? So in America, punctual, 8:02 is okay. 8:10 is not okay. But it's this idea that the concept of time is very different for a lot of us. And it took me about a year to get over the jet lag. Not the jet lag. No, not jet lag, but this idea of, that I was on my own. Nobody lived in my house with me. And if there was no noise, I would sleep. So I overslept a few times. I felt terrible. But, I think this is something that we get used to as we get used to the train schedules, the bus schedules. If you're not punctual in Japan, then you can't survive in Japan. Paid vacation at inappropriate times. This is where you have to let them know your schedule. Because we do like taking vacations because it's a necessary part of our job. And I agree that, we get a lot of thank you, but it's an important part of how we cope with living in a foreign country. You just need to take time off from that. But this is where you have to, let your teacher know, your student, your ALT know that this is the schedule. You want to do the speaking test around this time. Please don't say thank you. And I didn't go to the last Indo guy my 4th year. And it was a choice that I felt really bad about, but at the same time, I didn't cope at all. I didn't do anything for Indo guy. All I did was sit there and watch. After 3 years of just watching, I was like, no, I'm okay. So that's hard. But yeah, this is where I think you have to be flexible with the timing of things. And the ALT should know when the tests are going to be taken. So, there's a week where hey, you can't go. I had to go home for 2 weddings my 3rd year. And then just one happened to be in October, and it was around Bunkusai time. For me, it was luckily not around like the test time. But there's sometimes there's emergencies at home, or I was like the best man in one wedding, and the groomsman in another wedding, so I had to go. Okay, talk about the role of the ALT, and I'm gonna help you get started on that. Okay, so that's me. That's Mika Sensei. That's my favorite teacher. Huh? Oh, her classroom? Yeah, she's an artist. Okay, the rule of ALT. Okay, so what's our, we're assistants, right? So we should be your assistant. Okay? And by assistant, that means, if you tell me to do something, I'll do it. If you don't tell me anything, I won't gonna do anything. So this is where the job was very difficult for us, because we're supposed to, they tell us words like being proactive, right? A good ALT is proactive. And that means that, if you don't tell me to do something, I'll do it. But, we don't know what to do. So, I think it's really important if you have things that you want the ALT to do, you make a list. Like me making new word cards. Just say, hey, can you make new word cards for every class? That'd be great. And then you have all these papers and you're like, oh, great. Okay, assistant making activities and games. I think a lot of times, they tell us, hey, make the warm-up, Bob, or make a game. And, I always would come with the game and the teacher would look at me and say, I don't know, it's a little different than what I wanted. But, so it's not about us making something, we should always be collaborating. Projects. So this is my English point cards. Did I tell you about these? Yeah, so, after like a quarter, or after a semester, I had like a pile that big I would choose the students from. And that one was Obama, but I had like other types, like there were like Disney characters. The students really liked the Disney characters as well. Okay, expertise, what we're good at. So, we're good at foreign culture, especially from our own country. But also, if your ALT likes to travel, make them do a report when they come back. Every time I went on vacation, I came back with a PowerPoint with all the pictures, what I ate, who I saw, what kind of differences in culture there was. And it wasn't just showing pictures, I did kind of like my PowerPoint with, animation and things like that. So that's a good way that you can, teach about culture and have your ALT travel and be productive. And then, they could talk about their hobbies, interests, and community involvement. I did boxing, so I always use boxing and different things. And I did a lot of things with the community, like I did dancing things. I'll tell you about that. My role now I define it. Okay, so what do you think the role of an ALT should be?
Five.
Right? So what do you think the role of an ALT should be?
Connecting English to the real world.
What was the first one?
Connecting English to the real world.
English to the real world. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Yeah.
Speaking partner, JEs.
Okay. Speaking partner.
Conversation.
So you mean, inside the classroom or outside?
Four.
Both.
Four.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for
Okay.
classes.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Like student.
Create a situation that students need to use English.
Okay.
Motivating the students, praising the students.
Okay. Anything else? Role model. Ooh. Role model. Okay. Anything else?
Praise. Praise students.
Well, praise. Praise the students. Great job. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
I think one is to bring other culture into school or classroom.
Okay.
And another is to have the students' idea that we are seeing humans.
Okay, so nowhere here you guys really talk about, other than two. So there's no real roles that you have for classroom things, for teaching. It's mainly about motivating. Okay, connecting English to the real world. This is very important, and I think if I had more time, I always wanted to make videos I go to Sendai and say hi. Have my friend record and use the skits from the inside the book and record it and then make it into a real life situation. And I think those are great things. And, that's where making the connection with making a McOldens or something like that, where it's a real restaurant and you guys are going to their McDonald's. Speaking partner, that's very 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 important. But that's where I think it's difficult because a lot of times you guys don't have time to speak to each other inside or outside the classroom. And inside the classroom, I only found one teacher that I was really good with speaking. Because we played catch ball really well. She would say something funny and then I would say, no, Miko-sensei, that's not right. And then we could keep doing that. But unless you're very comfortable, unless your personalities match. Because I've tried that with other teachers, and they're just like, and I'm like, oh, no, I'm sorry, it's okay. Create situations, yes. This is every day that the ALT is around. That should be a situation. Raising motivation, and this is where maybe these projects come in, because these English point cards or these things to motivate your students. You you can't just do it, one person can't do it alone. And I was lucky because I was able to get all of my teachers to do this program. So when they weren't, when I wasn't in the classroom, they were still giving stickers to everybody. Because I had given them sticker books of these little stickers. Yeah. Role model, yes, that's what a teacher should be. Very important. Praise students. Same as the role model. Bring other cultures into school. Correct. Who has like an English board at your school? Who wants an English board at their school? English board. Like a board, one of the boards that they have in the hallway. And that, a lot of times school puts information about the school lunch and things like that. Well, one time I said, hey, this one's like always empty. Can I have it? So then I would start using it, putting up English signs and, new words. You can change it up, and you can, I would put pictures from like world events and the news. So I mean, that's a way that you can help, and you can help, your ALT can have a role by, updating that every week. But I had to do it alone, and it's hard generating ideas, so it should be a collaborative effort. And give, yes, this is what we're all trying to teach. And we do that through stories, and I think the whole traveling and being able to tell my story about my family or my life before I came to Japan is great. And I've done presentations about myself, and I think you can give your ALT an opportunity to do things. But I want you to also start thinking about the ALT more as somebody who is your assistant, somebody who, if you want something done in the classroom, well, you let them know ahead of time, and hopefully they can make you some materials. Teachers, that's Mika Sensei. So I want to say, well, you can't see her anymore, but I had some really good teachers, and I had some really bad teachers. And but the good ones are the ones that make me want to pay it forward to you. So you should thank Mika Sensei for keeping me alive. So I had 14 teachers over 4 years. All the change. And my last group of teachers, there was only one old teacher. So I was starting fresh. I had to do the training. And all the teachers, they all had their own different styles, or no styles, or... Yeah. So the good ones, they challenged me, because they said, Bob, I want you to make the game, and I want it to be like this. And I'm like, okay, great. And they were the ones that gave me the opportunity when I said, hey, Mika Sensei, I have this lesson, I made it myself, do you want to see it? Finally they say yes, okay, great. And the bad ones, they challenged me too. Because they would say to me, Bob, tomorrow, game. And that was it. And then I was what page? He's like, oh, page 14. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I asked, what do you want? And he's like, Chibi Day, it's up to you. So I would go home, and all night I would be working on a game. Because I had such a bad, because he was very lazy. And he would tell me, make a game. But it kept me very busy. It was great. Sleeping. But you know what? So if you can have a good teacher, and in my opinion, a good teacher is somebody who's good with the students. And you can have a bad teacher, but the rigid style, the teacher with the rigid is like inflexible, So like somebody with a very every day they do 5 minutes of this, 2 minutes of this. They look at the book. They do 5 minutes of silent reading. They do this. Those are very difficult for ALTs to work with because I had no role in the classroom.
So what did you do?
I would stand in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Did you do that CD player role?
No, I wasn't even. But she had it all started. What I ended up doing, I would walk and I would help the students like one-on-one. But I really enjoyed being able to talk to the students one-on-one. And but that was more difficult than any of bad or good teachers because it just didn't. They didn't have a role in the classroom.
Doing nothing is very hard.
Yes. So yeah, it took me a long time to get used to everyone's teaching styles. And some of them, I don't think I ever got used to them. But with like Mika Sensei, we were able to do this like catch-ball thing, where if I didn't have a lesson plan or she didn't have one, our classes would still be very fun and exciting. So teachers, I think somebody mentioned about like new ALTs coming and you have to like train them. Well, I always felt like when there's a new teacher that came, I had to train them in my style. Making time. Again, this is like I think the #1 complaint from ALTs and JTEs about working together. Jet ALTs usually leave around 4. What time do interact ones leave? Anytime? 4:30. Okay. So they usually leave at 4. They have nothing to do during school, other than teach maybe, but a lot of free time during school, and it's always you have to be proactive. How do you be proactive? School activities don't start until 4 after school, right? Teachers aren't free until 5, so there's no time to plan anything, right? Yeah, it's 6 o'clock. Okay, so what can you do to improve communication time with AOT? Guys, anybody have any ideas? What can you do to like make the time?
In my school, we usually schedule. LT doesn't come to my school very often.
Yeah.
1 week in a month or even less. So for the first or second hour you came to school,
Yeah.
we schedule like planning time to talk what's gonna do.
Of that day, right? Same day?
Or beforehand, we're going to send an email and get some rough idea. But we need to talk about the class face to face. So we prepare 1 or 2 hours.
How about like using Skype? Have you ever used Skype?
No. In my school, we cannot use Skype.
No, in school.
Good?
Not in school.
No, we can't use YouTube.
And you don't have Jet, right? It's a
Table.
it's Jet.
Yes.
Table.
Anybody else? What do you guys about communication or how to improve it?
My LT, when I go to classroom for home, even for homeroom, she come to talk to me.
Better.
Yeah,
And you don't have a homeroom.
I do.
Oh, you do? Oh, so she comes to your homeroom.
No, she works with me,
Oh, okay.
and like 2 or 3 minutes talk. We can still talk.
Get the time.
Great time.
Yeah, or she waits in front of my classroom so I can talk.
But you have 1 LT in your school, right?
Oh, actually 2. But
Yeah.
this is a special
Yeah, so
major.
then you have time to talk. But usually we don't have that much classes with LT. That's a problem.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is-
my-
I used to talk about teaching plan over lunch school, or
Lunch break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the classroom.
LT is pregnantly maternity leave.
But
That's
what
another
what
way.
do you do the first day? They came-
Well, how about like during your break times?
Communicate
When you don't have a class,
email.
does it sometimes match with your ALT? When you have your free period?
I'm not free period.
Well, usually you have like one.
Yeah, but we have.
We have our own things
We have.
That's right.
before students leave.
Okay, well, I think it's really difficult, and I think I wasn't really successful until I started doing this myself. But I stayed after, and I was a good ALT, and I played sports, and so I would run with the students, and then when I was finished doing the training and the warm up, then I could go to the staff room, and my teachers were like drinking coffee. And then I can say, hi, what's going on tomorrow?
But if we have JLT like you, we are very happy.
Yeah.
Because not all ALTs are like you.
Right. But, I mean, I think if we are allowed to stay after school, 'cause some of us can, right? You're ALT. If they're allowed to, we want to stay. We actually, some of us want to be involved and, they have interest in different sports. It's just hard to, like, actually go, you don't know the teacher very well, because it's not just your English teachers, but if you want to play basketball and the basketball coach is like, hey, and he's a very scary guy. I want to say you should invite your ALTs to the clubs. To your clubs. Have you ever done that? And did they go?
Just once.
Once. Okay. Does he play baseball?
No.
No. It's fine. Anybody else say, hey, please come to my club?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's one way where you can use that time in between, like, students doing things. Because I don't think you really need 3 hours to talk about a lesson. If you had to use 3 hours for every lesson, then it's a waste of time, right? You just need to know those details and maybe say, hey, tomorrow morning show me something, and we can maybe use it. Okay, so this is well, he made ramen. He was like a ramen teacher. So I'm going to talk about how to make time, and this is about getting your ALT involved in the school. Once they're involved, they're there, and you can talk to them, right? But a lot of times I felt like I was just an observer. But I was just sitting there doing nothing. This is during Undokai. I think it's really strange that on the JET program we come in July. There's no school. We're not teaching. And Undokai the first time is like, wow, that's interesting. But we want to come and we start off wrong because we wanted to come and teach, and we wanted like a real. I wish that the JET program started when the school year started. Because I think when I come 3 months after everybody started, I can never get in there. My first grade class, they never really were comfortable with it. But the year after that first grade class, they were like, we love you. And a lot of other times, I felt like I was just a photographer, because I would take a lot of pictures, and that was just a way for me to make myself have time. So then I could do something. And I learned how to put the pictures on the computer so the teachers could use it, but I didn't want to just be looking at things. I always wanted to get involved. So it's important for you, and there's more than just one English teacher usually, but it's important for you to be able to tell the planning committees of the sports day and the cultural festival, say, hey, you should give Bob a role, make him do something. He looks lonely. But that's the hardest thing. I know everybody gets really busy, and nobody really wants to make me clean. But I always clean with the students after school. I always chose like a different class to clean with, and I would rotate. But yeah, you should invite them. Because sometimes we are a little shy, especially with the teachers, maybe like a history teacher, and like a big guy. But yeah, I've made friends with the teachers by going to their clubs, and I know that it gives them a positive idea of me. Maybe I don't talk to the teacher so much, but I go and run with the table tennis club. Because I don't play table tennis, but if I go and run with them, then the teacher's like, oh, Bob was there. And then they do the whole, and I'm like, stop. So yeah, I like to go to other classes during my free time, because when I had a free class, that was my drawing. But I like joining the cooking class. That was always fun. And then I did the calligraphy class for each semester sometimes. Terrible. And I like to play sports with the kids. and this is during PE, because the PE in Japan is so much more exciting and dangerous. It's so exciting. You do like gymnastics and dangerous things. Yeah, in America, yeah, you have to like sign a paper. I don't know, they're like doing the And at my at the little school at Nonochu, they did Taoe. And what's it called? Opposite. But so that was always great. You know, we did that, and I would take pictures, and I had to roll up my friends. And yeah, but that school was really cool, and I really liked them because they did a lot of activities, and they always got me involved, and that's why I really enjoyed that school. And that's why I felt really comfortable going to their NKIs, because I knew all the teachers very well. Yeah, we made these New Year's decorations. Okay, this is very embarrassing. This is the... Hello, this is me. My name is Bob. I'm from America. I'm going to sing by the Beatles. This is our Budokai. We did a school band. Okay, we're stopped. For 3 years, I didn't do anything for Bunkasai, I just watched. And they would say, Bob, no, you should be the audience, you should watch. And I was like, no, I want to be, I want to do as the Japanese teachers do. I want to help you, put me on the committee, I want to do something. But, so finally, I had to take, I had to be proactive and say, hi, are you guys singing? Like, oh, I'm going to sing. Like, let me sing.
Last year.
And then I felt, then I could be back there, and then I started to do the sound. Because they had the sound room, and then I did sound in high school. So, I put on my headphones, and I was like, okay. I was like, you, get the mic. You, bring the mic over there. And so then I had a role, and then the teacher, he looked at me, he's like, oh, that's great. Because we all have like these different skills and talents, and you'll never know. You can't ask somebody, hey, can you fly an airplane? There's just these random things that if you just said, hey, what would you want to do during Undoka? And I would say, hey, I want to, be the parking guy. Okay, so can I just help with parking? I don't know. Like maybe somebody's very interested in parking, and that's what they want to do. So, it's in your ability to let the AL, to give the ALT an opportunity to.
As I mentioned before, in my school, always we put ALT's name in the, if we have, for example, sports festival or Bunkasai, and his name is in it. He has a job, and then also his name is on the paper. I think I did not ask, so I think the principal or someone who is I think it's very nice of him, and he started to. I think that started not like 1 year ago or something, so that he always has some jobs.
What does he do?
And in the sports festival, Junbigakari is so busy.
See, I would love it. I wanted to be retired. And see, that's great, and I think that kind of goes. That's not your job. That's like everybody's job. And if you want the ALT to feel like he's part of the school instead of being isolated, I think everybody, you have a person there, and your town is paying for this person. Use them for something. I don't know, I just think it's a waste to not. And then I also did a lot of things outside of my community. I went snowshoeing. Country feet. Oh man, this is backwards. And I did boxing, that's me. So then, because I did these things, because people helped me find these things, people at my school or people in my community, then, when I come back, I can show them a picture and say, hey, this is what I did yesterday. And so, we're talking about connecting the real world to English. That's how you do it. You ask your ALT, hey, every Monday, please tell us what you did on the weekend. Except for drinking, I got drunk. Oh man. Okay, yeah, and I was also part of an Eikaiwa group, and I did Suzume Odori. Who knows what Suzume Odori is? It's like a sparrow dance. It was terrible. It's like a Sendai thing. Okay, sorry. We have no time. Oh man. Okay. Okay, I have a story about natto. The first time I had natto, I was like, this is terrible. Why do people eat this? But my neighbor, he said almost everybody in Japan eats natto for breakfast. Almost. And so I always wanted to know why did Japanese people eat natto. And so I wanted to really like it. I wanted to really like natto. And so I tried it, and the first time I was like, I wanted to throw up. Second time, I could eat half of it, and I was like, third time, it was okay, I could finish it, but it was just not very good. Fourth time, I was like, okay, it's okay. Fifth time, I was like, oh my god. And then the sixth time, I liked natto. Because I wanted to know why, this is the cultural understanding thing, right? I wanted to know why people eat natto in Japan, and now I do. It's great. It's a great source of protein.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and that story relates to how I tried to teach. Because when I wanted to make a lesson, and my JTE was too busy to talk to me, so I knew the next day we were going to teach page 14. So I would come and say, hi, I have a game. Like, you want to do this for tomorrow? And they're like, no, it's okay. I have a lesson. And then page 16 would come and I'm like, I have something. If you want to try it, let me know. And they're like, no, it's okay. You should relax. And then, page 18 would come and I'm like, I have something. And then the teacher's like, oh, great. I can use that, So we would do something. But it took a long time to build that trust, And it took a long time for me to get better at teaching. That the teacher actually was like, hey, you're doing, that's good. But, it's about motivating your ALT to be able to do the things that they need to do. Okay? And it's also, it's two-way. They have to know that you want them to do something. And, when they do something, you have to take a chance on it sometimes. And so, you try, and you try, and you try, and you try, and yeah! And then it was great. Then I have another story. You know what this is? Catfish, yes. My student, for 4 years, I said, hey, I like catfish. It's a Vietnamese dish. And, there's a river in my town, and they said, yeah, we always catch those, and we throw them back. And I said, hey, well, you should bring it to me. So on my last month of school, the students, they brought me catfish.
Did you cook it?
I did, yes. I did cook it. Okay, so we're going to talk about turnover of ALTs. And, ALTs, they leave every year or twice, every 2 years, or sometimes they stay for 5 years. That's the maximum. Just like everything in Japan, you get seasons. They come and go, but I think from the ALT, you should be learning what you need to learn to be a better teacher. Sometimes you learn that they're not such great people to work with, and sometimes you get a lot of great ideas from them. But if you're not saving those ideas and using those ideas that they've given you, then you're not building up your knowledge base. Okay? Some people might say investing time in the ALT it's hard because they change every year. They can give you help with the lessons. But I always felt that I had to invest in my JTEs as well. Especially, I would have a first-year JTE who had no lessons and no ideas, and I would always say, hey, here's my lesson. So then it became my class, and I really liked it. Okay, and so the story was that you should give them the fishing poles and not the fish. And by fishing pole, I mean this. It took me 3 years to understand this. I didn't understand anything about this board, or why the class changed, or why my teacher is not here. I didn't understand it. And once I did, my third year, I was like, yay! Life was easy. This is the paper my teacher would give me for my schedule. I didn't understand it. And then one day I understood it. But I don't want you to give it to me in English. I want you just to tell me what each kanji means. So when I see it again on this board, and I'm like, it's a bento day, yes. I will bring fried chicken. Alright, future in the ALT. Okay, so, in next 3 years, English will be part of the big three. Japanese, math, and English together. Okay, so Japan's emphasis on English and international communication, it's getting bigger. And I really, there's a shift from just reading and writing to now it's about communication, about global business, about internationalization. And I think that's why the JET program is changing. It's changing, it's fluctuating, and there's going to be something that we're going to have to refer to as the more serious ALT. Somebody who speaks more Japanese, who is already interested in teaching, maybe has a credential or certificate. Because before, 20 years ago, it was about not teaching. It was about, hey, there's this it's like the zoo. Come to the zoo, everybody. We have a fun. But now, I think, everybody wants somebody in their classroom that can help them. And it's not about. It's still going to be about internationalization. But we have to start, even yourselves, is when you talk to your ALT, it's going to have to be about teaching. Because for me, what really got me to be interested in teaching was learning how my teachers taught. When I was the observer in the class, I would see how a good teacher taught a lesson. And use a lot of colors and these beautiful lines and the certain kanjis they use. I would take a picture because I always had my camera with me, so then I could see that if I do Keiyoshi plus something, then I get something. So for me, it was about becoming a serious ALT because I want to be a teacher in the future, but not every ALT does. So things will have to change, and I think a lot of things will have to change, such as the textbook. You only have about 1,000 words that the students learn over 3 years. It's not very challenging. I think 3 years of English in Japan is about 1 year in a regular program. And it's very slow, and it's too slow, I think, for the students to actually learn how to communicate. And they talk about these things like natural order. Well, the book is completely out of order when it comes to communication. And, we learn things in a certain way, but there has to be a change from learning and teaching in a simple way to teaching in a style for communication. And I think right now is going to be a big change in the way ALTs are going to be used in Japan, because Japan, is looking to the rest of Asia and seeing that out of all of the money that they're spending on the English programs, they're not getting good results. And why, So this is the time where you're gonna have to talk amongst each other and amongst your ALTs and see how the change in Japan's education system is gonna affect everything. But I really believe that the JET program and having an ALT in every single public school, that could never happen in America. So I really congratulate Japan for such a great job of bringing people to Japan. Nowhere in the world, I always talk about, if every Spanish class had a native Spanish speaker in America, then we would have no money. But Japan is able to do it somehow. It's a big part of the budget, and it could be more streamlined, I think. It could be more fair to certain schools. If you only have an ALT once a month, what's the point? It just makes it more difficult, but I think it'll get better before it gets worse. Okay, let me close the show. Okay, that's summer. So what I always learned in Japan was about transient transient nature of Japan. Transience means like things change, and that's always represented by the seasons, right? And you know, your JTEs will change, and your favorite teachers and your favorite principals will come and go. But you know, I don't know. There was just something about the way that taught me how to be flexible. Like once I became more Japanese, once I started thinking more like a Japanese person, it was easier for me to accept the changes in my situation. And you know, I don't think without acculturation, without me starting to think like a Japanese person, that I would have enjoyed my time in Japan as much as I did. Because, you know, there was the good, and there was the bad, and there's always going to be both. And there's always going to be spring, so that's the other part. Yeah. And yeah, I made a lot of great friends in the JET program. A lot of friends that we've lost and come with. And I made a lot of friends in my town. And this was at my goodbye party, or this is the, you know, when they were showing me off at the train station. So I was very blessed, and I want to thank you for being able to let me connect to Japan and the JET program again. So this is a service I'm doing from my heart to you. So thank you.
Thank you.